using online tutorials. Therefore, I also document every cosplay I make and make tutorials to give back to the community. Or not. How to build a cosplay. I'm not going to do a really step-by-step process with you today, but I'm going to talk a lot about different techniques, different methods that you can use. And I'm going to use my Vi costume as a sort of a focus point, because with this costume I learned very much. I had to do wig styling, warbler, sewing, painting, sculpting, and I had to learn everything when I did it. And so the first part of cosplay is actually planning. I can do an hour presentation about planning alone. You have to have, how much time you have, how much money you get spent, and if you're going to bring in planes. And the first thing about time is it's very boring to sit the last day before a convention in your hotel room sewing and finishing the cosplay. Try to figure out how long you have and at least try it on. Wear the costume a day before a competition. Then you know if you can actually bend the knee or sit down or go to the toilet. Also money. This is an expensive hobby. I'm going to show you a few pointers on how to make it a little bit cheaper. And the third point is travel. Are you going to bring it on a plane? Do you have like a huge prop? And are you going to bring it on a plane? When I made this, I had a car. I don't have a car anymore. This is like the furthest away I can go with bringing my Vi cosplay. The one good point when making huge props is actually to make it detachable. And one way to do that is use mini shampoo bottles. Because then you can attach the shampoo bottle to one end and the cork to another, and you can sort of screw and unscrew the prop. It works for swords, bows, stabs, wherever. And another really important thing is do your research. You need to look at a lot of reference photos. And you also have the difference between in-game photos and splash art. Splash art is usually way more realistic, and in-game photos are very cartoony. And both of them are fine. Both of them are amazing reference photos. But if you're going to enter a competition, you need to know which photo you're going to send to the judges. And at least, or last, you don't have to invent the wheel anew every time, because there's a big chance that somebody else has already made this specific cosplay, or somebody else has made a part of it or something that's similar. Look online for a lot of tutorials. I mentioned I write for every cosplay I do. There's step-by-step tutorials for everything on Vi and every other cosplay. When you're starting building it, go big. Seriously, start with the hardest part. If you don't have a clue how to build it and you save it for last and you don't finish, and it's really essential for your cosplay, like the gloves for Vi, then all the other effort is sort of wasted. You need to complete the cosplay, and you need to therefore I really advise, start with the biggest, baddest, most difficult, and go from there. So, being that the gloves were the hardest part for my cosplay, I again needed more planning. It's very hard to start with a huge prop, but if you break it down to the smaller parts, like the fingers, the knuckles, the back of the hand, it's way easier to comprehend, because it's much easier to build one finger than it is to build the entire glove. So if then you have, okay, I built all the fingers, I've made out the layout from the back, I have the folded parts, then I just need to assemble them. And don't use hot glue. It's like the holy grail for cosplayers, but it's really not. Hot glue melts. When it's warm, it melts. If you leave your prop in the car, it falls apart. If you glue your corset together with hot glue, your body heat will make it fall apart. Yeah, and now you know how to start. Let's find out more about materials. I'm not kidding. This material, I have used this so much. I have gone to IKEA, I have bought pizza just to get the cardboard and put the pizza in the freezer. You can do so much with this material. Okay. People have touched me. I have done so much with cardboard as material. There's a little bit, it is limited, but it's really cheap. But if you prime it or seal it so it gets more waterproof, like paint it with wood glue, that helps and it smooths it out. cover it with filler and they get smoother, and spray paint it, then you have a lot. All of these parts are made with either paper mache or pizza boxes. Another material is expanding foam. This is very practical if you're going to make huge props, because literally this is insulation foam for windows and it expands due to gas. So what you do is you spray it out, preferably over a shape. Flicker is way up. You spray it over shape and then you carve out your basic shape. Then again, you have to cover it because of the gas being released, it leaves a lot of huge air bubbles. Those you need to cover either with paper mache or with cardboard or fill it up with filler. Then again, it gets heavy, but this is a way that you make huge prop. Like Cosplay river would be a perfect prop to build with it. Work so much with the EVA foam or foam mats myself, but this is more like an illustration how you can take gym floor mats, carve it into pieces, and glue together, and you get an amazing shape. You get this entire cosplay is Metal base, and it's made by Cosplay, and he actually tells you to use hot glue, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I haven't really tried. I would also say use contact glue. It's another kind of glue and it doesn't melt in the warmth. And then we have the darling of the cosplay world. This is Warblock. This is a material. It's a thermoplastic. So you heat it up and you shape it into whatever you want. It's very easy to work with and you get amazing results. The downside is it's a little bit hard to get hold of in Scandinavia and it's also a little bit expensive. But you can mold it, you can shape it, you can bend it, you can make armor, you can make everything. So how to use it is simply use scissors to cut out your pieces, and you use a heat gun to shape it. And when you heat it up, the glue inside the material activates and it glues itself to itself really easy. No additional glue. No glue gun, seriously. And also you can reheat it and it doesn't sort of wear down. The thing about it being expensive is the most common way to use it is sort of the sandwich method. You have one layer of Warblock and one layer of craft foam, then another layer of Warblock. This makes like a really thick, really sturdy material, but you use twice the material. I have tried using only one layer of Warblock, and this chef piece is one layer of Warblock. The downside is it gets really wobbly. And you have to be really careful when heating it up that you don't poke it or bend it too much, because then it loses its shape. So you have your prop, how to bring it to life, how to add depth and realism. You need to paint it. And there are several ways to do this. I would recommend everybody to prime their props first. Priming is, for instance, gesso, where you have a sort of base that smooths out the surface. It gives an even color, so when you paint your real color, your real base color, the color pops and it gets even. Then of course you can use spray paint over it, and that gives a lovely finish. Always use it in a ventilated area because there's a lot of toxins. But if you have spent 40 hours or more carving out the perfect sword or perfect prop in styrofoam, and last thing is to paint it. If you use spray paint, the styrofoam will melt, like shown in the last picture. Styrofoam reacts to paint or spray paint. So what you're going to do is either seal it with wood glue or primer or filler, or simply use acrylic paint, which is a brush-on paint. There are several more techniques, but I have like limited time and have to hurry through some of the best ones. Acrylic paint is really cheap and gives really bright, good colors. Yeah, the downside, yes, you will get brush strokes, but it's really easy to apply, really easy to get in every crease. And also, if you don't want to brush it on, you can sponge it on. It's also called stippling. You use a sponge, you dip it in water and paint and sort of dab it on and you get shading and effects. And speaking of shading and effects, these two gloves have the exact same base paint, but by adding more details, adding more varnish, more techniques to them, it sort of goes from there to there. And I made this thing for you. There's all the same piece of foam for First I sealed it with wood glue. Then I painted over with a, not acrylic, but it's a hobby paint to get the gold color. When that's solid, I use a technique called weathering, meaning I mix darker acrylic paint, sort of dark brown or black with water to let it water out the paint mix. Then I smear it on the prop. This way your prop or armor will look like it's been out in hard weather, being dragged through mud, and you get it into cracks, and it's a real way to make it look way more worn. And that can also save a lot of props, because you're going to make a high finished prop, you have to really sand and be really careful how to do it. But if you do a weather prop, you can sort of add some battle damage and it looks amazing. The bottom right there is shading. Also, it brings out depth in the costume. It brings out, when you have spent a lot of time making details, they sort of disappear in pictures because you don't have any depth. And the same goes for the last one. You add highlights where the light would usually hit your cosplay or prop. And that can also go for if you want battle damage. If you want to have paint that looks like it's been chipped off an armor, or you want to have scratches, you use like a silver pen, for instance, or silver paint. So to continue on my chest plate, I have here base coated it in Formula, because Formula gets really rough. The surface is not smooth at all. It gets really rough and you have to either paint it with wood glue or you have to prime it with gesso, which is preferred. Next up, I spray painted it with my base color. Then I used a silver spray paint on top of that as a highlight effect, because the silver will only hit the highest point of my prop. Then again, I have a new base layer of gold paint. And then I used a weathering technique to get depth to all the details I made on the chest. I have smeared it with paint, I've added the darker colors in every streak around every detail. And on the last picture you can see I have used the highlight effect by adding the silver streaks along battle damage. This sort of brings it out and makes it look like there's metal underneath. There's special effects. This is actually my favorite part of any cosplay, because all cosplays, I think, or all props, is 10,000 times cooler if it lights up or if it has sounds or any other effects. So my gloves are mechatronic, so I can move the fingers. And we'll start with lights first. When it's finished. There we go. Lighting is not that difficult at all, actually. All you need is a battery and a circuit. You need a wire going from the plus side of the battery to the negative side. That's sort of the basic line of this. Then you add whatever you want to be powered by the battery on that circuit. For instance, a LED light. The thing about LED lights is they have a positive side and a negative side. The positive side is the longer leg on the LED, and the current needs to go in the right direction to actually work. And test that before you have spent putting 80 LEDs together and put it in your costume and you have some of them the wrong way. The current will still flow, but the light won't emit light. So test that. And you don't have to solder it either. You can twist the bare wire to the legs of the LED. But if you don't want to wire or solder or make your own circuit, you can also always use stuff like pre-circuit stuff. You can use flashlights, you can use small, this is L wire, don't really emit that much effect, but still it gives a really nice detail to, otherwise, you know, a normal costume is elevated by adding some light. And even better is add sound, because so far I haven't met that many cosplayers that actually embed sound in their costumes. And this is actually even simpler than adding light, because you can buy small speakers that run on battery and you just make room in your prop to attach them. Then you download whatever sound effects or music you want on your phone or iPod and you hook it up. And if you make it so you can take the microphone or the speaker out again, then you can actually reuse it for several costumes and it won't be such an expensive investment. So I have used my speakers for several costumes and it's really fun walking down with, you know, like a GLaDOS potato in your pocket that actually speaks. And then as my favorite special effect at the moment, when you from her gloves, like they're steam powered. So I really wanted to add the steam effect to my gloves. And I thought about this for a long time, but ended up, yeah, I still need just a circuit with a battery, and I need something steam. Then I found out they sell smoke on cans for testing fire alarms. Then, okay, I have that. Then I need something to activate the nozzle without me touching it. So I attached a servo, meaning a helicopter rotor, to it, and a servo tester that tells the rotor where it's supposed to be positioned. So here we have the smoke alarm tester and my finished circuit and the effect. And I'm supposed to have a video now, if it works. Then I can show you live instead. Hopefully. If it works. I adjust the it's not really a huge effect, but if you add light to it, if you have a stage show, this is still something that's really cool to add, and it gives something more to cosplay. People are more interested in learning more about this, like, this is, you know, taking it to the next level. Yeah, no problem. Just skip to the next one. Are you skipping? Bonus slides in case I don't get any questions. I would love for the questions to be sort of cosplay related, so I have a chance of answering, but I'm up for anything.